Hi everyone, and welcome back to the fourth and final video of Lesson 3 as part of the Blockchain Training Room. Today we'll be finishing up our study on cryptocurrency and blockchain elsewhere, and we'll be starting off by looking at the current climate and attitudes on cryptocurrency. Today's video is going to be pretty short as it's the last one, so do stay tuned and pay attention. So we'll first start by looking at some of the regulations surrounding cryptocurrencies. Currently, regulations surrounding cryptocurrencies is actually very hazy and hand-wavy, and there's actually a lack of standardized regulations across different economic blocks or government agencies around the world. This makes it very difficult to regulate cryptocurrencies because each entity or each institution treats cryptocurrencies slightly differently, and hence it will be very difficult to have a standardized set of regulations or treatment that apply to all these different regions. In the United States, for instance, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC, treats Bitcoin as a commodity, while the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, treats it as a property for tax purposes. So you can see how there is no shared consensus on how each type of cryptocurrency should be regulated. Nevertheless, governments are actually still able to exert power and authority over cryptocurrency exchanges and businesses that operate in their country. Even though there may be a lack of a centralized regulation system, these local governments are still able to affect their cryptocurrency exchanges and business through their own countries. Regulation is actually one of the most important factors that affect Bitcoin's price, and the reason is because as a means of payment and store of value, it's a relatively new decentralized currency, and amongst one of the risks that is associated with Bitcoin is regulatory risk. So we note that the cryptocurrency's rise has actually been arrested every single time a government has cracked the policy whip. Countries generally take varying approaches to Bitcoin regulation. So for example, in November of 2019, China actually accelerated a crackdown on all cryptocurrency businesses, and this led to Bitcoin sinking to an all-time low. Other countries in Asia are pointers in ways to deal with cryptocurrencies. For instance, South Korea also recently announced that any cryptocurrency profits over 2.5 million South Korean won will be taxed at 20%, and this is something that is estimated to take effect in 2022. On the Japan side, the Japanese government also passed the Virtual Currency Act, which defines and describes various cryptocurrencies. In this act, they are treated as assets for accounting purposes. As part of the act, the government also issued a list of approved virtual currencies which are considered legitimate and can be transacted on, meaning that they can be traded, sold, or promoted to the public. While there were concerns initially that altcoins might be left out of this official list, that actually has not happened. So having moved on from the regulatory perspective, let's now look at the social acceptance and institutional support for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I'm sure many of you would have heard the news about El Salvador making Bitcoin legal tender earlier this year on June 9th, 2021. It's actually the first ever country to do so, and they deemed that the cryptocurrency could be used for any transaction where the business can accept it. El Salvador has also remained steadfast in their adoption by widely announcing that they do buy the dip. If you've been keeping up with the current headlines, you'd also notice that despite their strong support of Bitcoin as legal tender, there have been riots and general dissatisfaction within the country over the implementation of their policy of making Bitcoin legal tender. So this is all very much still flowing and still changing, and it remains to be seen how the outcome will be eventually. There are, however, some advantages of paying in Bitcoin. For instance, Bitcoin transactions offer several benefits such as low transaction fees and speedy processing compared to transactions that are conducted with fiat currencies. Bitcoin transactions are also especially useful for international transfers because there wouldn't be any remittance fees or international bank fees, which can normally eat into a substantial amount of the money transferred. So the potential for making payments with Bitcoin has actually improved following technological advancements such as the Lightning Network. And one final benefit that we'll talk about is how Bitcoin transactions can actually be conducted by those who are unbanked. So it serves a sector of the market that may not have access or may have limited access to banking facilities. Cryptocurrencies are actually seeing massive institutional support as of late, and even venture capital firms are creating Bitcoin funds. Earlier this year in August, Citigroup, one of the largest investment banking firms in the world, announced that it was launching efforts to trade Bitcoin futures. And JP Morgan had even greenlit plans to let several wealth management clients buy and transact in a small set of crypto products, despite its CEO earlier having to threaten fire employees for trading Bitcoin. Goldman Sachs also announced this month that it was launching a new crypto desk that would allow it to trade Bitcoin futures and derivatives. Other key players in the financial industry include Bank of America Merrill Lynch, UBS, BNY Mellon, and Standard Chartered. And having seen how many of these large institutions are actually showing support for this democratized currency, it will be definitely very interesting to see how the regulatory environment changes and shifts in light of these developments. Furthermore, electric vehicle manufacturer Tesla has actually joined the ranks of companies holding Bitcoin, with an SEC filing revealing that the company invested an aggregate of 1.5 billion USD in this cryptocurrency. In Q1 2021, Tesla actually sold 10% of its Bitcoin holdings, but according to CEO Elon Musk, this was merely to prove liquidity of Bitcoin as an alternative to holding cash on a balance sheet, and did not actually indicate that they were withdrawing support for the cryptocurrency. A prominent business analytics platform, MicroStrategy, has also adopted Bitcoin as its primary reserve asset. Throughout 2021, the firm, which produces mobile software and cloud-based services, continued its Bitcoin buying spree. It now holds 105,085 Bitcoin in reserve, equivalent to over 3.3 billion USD in Bitcoin. At one point, MicroStrategy's CEO Michael Saylor said that he was buying $1,000 in Bitcoin every single second. Next up, let's look at cryptocurrencies as a means of investment. Since market prices for cryptocurrencies are based on supply and demand, as we've learned in the previous videos, the rate at which a cryptocurrency can be exchanged for another currency can fluctuate widely, since the design of many cryptocurrencies ensures a high degree of scarcity. Bitcoin has experienced some rapid surges and collapses in value, climbing as high as 17,738 per Bitcoin in December 2017, before dropping to just over 7,500 in the following months. Cryptocurrencies are thus considered by some economists to be a short-lived fad or a speculative bubble, and are therefore unsuitable to be considered as a means for investment. There is concern that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are not rooted in any material goods, and hence do not present any fundamental value. Some research, however, has identified that the cost of producing a Bitcoin, which requires an increasingly large amount of energy, is directly related to its market price. Crypto blockchains are highly secure, but other aspects of a cryptocurrency ecosystem, including exchanges and wallets, are not immune to the threat of hacking. In Bitcoin's 10-year history, several online exchanges have been the subject of hacking and theft, sometimes with millions of dollars worth of coins being stolen. In 2019, for example, hackers stole over 7,000 Bitcoin from major cryptocurrency exchange Binance. At that point in time, it was worth over 40 million US dollars. However, Binance has since bounced back from this setback by improving its security features. This has been a milestone in the history of cryptocurrencies that was looked upon, and since then, many exchanges are actually now built with a focus on security in order to prevent such breaches from taking place. Nonetheless, many observers see potential advantages in cryptocurrencies still, like the possibility of preserving value against inflation and facilitating exchange, while also being easier to transport and divide than precious metals. One does not actually even have to consider any land space costs or storage costs when dealing with cryptocurrencies, as opposed to metals such as gold, which are seen as a more traditional hedge against inflation and may serve the same purpose, but take up a much larger cost. Having existed outside the influence of central banks and governments, there are also certain drawbacks that observers would notice in cryptocurrencies. Given that it is a rapidly changing environment with many stakeholders all around the globe, it really remains to be seen what is the latest trend that will happen in cryptocurrency, whether institutional support and acceptance will continue going higher as more and more firms, companies, and financial institutions accept Bitcoin for what it is, or if regulatory environments will even continue with further crackdowns on cryptocurrencies. All of this is something that we will have to keep on top of in the years to come. With that, we've actually come to the very end of our final video, and in that, we've also come to the end of all our lessons in the training wing. So from all of us here at the training wing, we do hope that you have had an enjoyable time learning about the fundamentals of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of their real-world applications. So we do hope that you will continue to review the videos and the lesson materials, and I'll see you again for our lesson shortly. Thank you.